The Republican debate came out explosively with fireworks coming from Vivek, and this is what it sounded like when he started his segment, going right after the debate moderators. And this is a great point. Why were these people in charge of the Republican debate? They shouldn't have been. It should have been somebody else, because we've already talked about Lester Holt and Kristen Welker and what they have been doing in historical debates and how they've treated Republican candidates. So why would you give them the full forum over the Republicans? Vivek called them out, rightfully so, very enjoyable. So let's start with Vivek during the debate with the RNC, coming out hot.
Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023.
True.
And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party.
So true.
Do you think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate?
No.
They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, I mean, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Go.
Mr. Ronna.
Sorry. This is how we get our country back. We need accountability because this media rigged the 2016 election.
True.
They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
and they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to Governor Christie. Why?
Oh, man, that is so satisfying. I can't even explain. And they're just, all right, your time. Make the clock go faster. Cut him off. And Lester Holt is like, And did you see the pain on Kristen Welker's face as she sat there and had to eat it? Look at that, man. She's not happy about this. She's, oh, man, that's painful right there. Yeah, why is she here? Why is Lester Holt here? These people hate Republicans, okay? They wake up every morning just thinking about ways to make them look like idiots all day. And the Republicans put these people in charge of this. And we made this point on a Membo stream earlier when we were having this conversation about what the Republican Party was doing. Why are they on NBC in the first place? And why these two people? I think it's this weird need to be liked from these establishment people. They just want to be on the big platforms with the same old people. And, you know, they can turn around and say that they've been playing fair with the other side or whatever. But Vivek is absolutely right? The current strategy, whatever our current leadership is doing, it's not working. Losing. And we've said for a long time here, if the elections are being rigged, right? If they're weaponizing the government, if they're creating massive entities like Democracy Docket and all these other legal groups that at some point are getting money from different organizations to fund legal operations, where's the Republican response to any of that? It's been none. It's been totally non-existent. They just are sitting around saying, well, we don't really like Trump. We'd rather have one of our guys in charge. And so we'll just forget about the whole legal component of this case. Well, in my opinion, we lost 2020 because they got away with that. Because in addition to the corrupt media and to the FBI covering up the Biden laptop stuff, we also had the changing of the election rules that was done by the lawyers, all right? Not by the politicians, but the lawyers were filing lawsuits. And the Republicans didn't have a response in 2020. And as we're covering the Trump cases here, they've got no response this year either. And so the debate continued on. We've got several clips, and this one is of Vivek and Nikki Haley. And of course, the backstory here is Vivek jumped on TikTok, and he's now trying to go and win the younger vote to bring them into the political fold and expand the tent to capture the young people who happen to be on TikTok. And guess what? When Nikki Haley criticized him for this, they said, Vivek, why are you on a Chinese CCP app? He said, well, your daughter is too. And so that's the backstory. And this is Vivek bringing it up. And Nikki Haley did not like this.
Ramaswamy, we've talked about this. You campaign on TikTok. How do you get TikTok banned if you use it?
Well, I want to laugh at why Nikki Haley didn't answer your question, which is about looking at families in the eye. In the last debate, she made fun of me for actually joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first.
Leave my
before
daughter
preaching
out
to
of your
anybody else's
voice.
adult daughter. The next generation of Americans are using it. And that's actually the point. You have her supporters propping her up. That's fine. Here's the truth.
You're just
the easy
scum.
answer is actually
Scum.
to say that we're just going to ban one app. We got to go further. We have to ban any U.S. company actually transferring U.S. data to the Chinese. Here's a story most people don't know. Airbnb hands over U.S. user data to the CCP. Now, that's a U.S.-owned company. So this is the problem when you have Republicans that temporarily go the way the winds blow, and now it's popular to talk tough on China. When she was UN ambassador, called them, literally her words, not mine, our great friend. You can't be fair weather fans of the right policy. Get to the root cause. Even U.S. companies in Silicon Valley are regularly doing it. Cut the virtue signaling. The fact of the matter is Democrats are on TikTok today. The only person, one of the few people who is putting up content the way the actual algorithms work, speaking for pro-Israel views or others, is
Ambassador
me. And I predict
Haley,
more Republicans will join it. But stop U.S. companies from turning over data to Chinese companies. That's the real
Moderators
answer,
like
not the virtue
Kristen
signal.
don't get to.
All right, so Nikki Haley called him scum for bringing up the daughter, and she's not happy about this either. So Vivek was on just a rampage last night and very unhappy about that. And of course, we're not using TikTok, right? We've been shadow banned immediately when we were even experimenting with TikTok years ago. And it is a pernicious app that I do have some serious concerns about, but I do like the fact that Vivek is trying to reach the younger crowd, right? People who are where they are. He's trying to go reach them and bring their voices out. So Nikki Haley is not too happy about it. And you see Vivek, I think he said that she's an adult daughter. He said, well, she's an adult, so, we can bring her up. She's fair game. So very interesting exchange there. And you can see these two do not like each other. Nikki Haley says, you're just scum. And we're going to hear from Nikki Haley. She gets an opportunity to speak to the media about this after the fact. And so we'll listen to what she says in some follow-up here. But Nikki Haley, of course, as we know, is somebody who is in favor of really what I would say is war, right? Everywhere we turn, and more money for war, more, spending for Ukraine and so on. And so Vivek also had an opportunity to comment on Ukraine. Here's what that sounded like.
Mr. Ramaswamy, are you persuaded by President Zelensky's urgent new plea? Where do you stand on more funding?
I'm absolutely unpersuaded. And I'm actually enjoying watching the Ukraine hawks quietly, delicately tiptoe back from their position as this thing has unwound into a disaster. The first half of this race, I was the only person standing for it. Now they're actually quietly coming around to being more cautious, as they should. Level with the American people here. Ukraine is not a paragon of democracy. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties. It has consolidated all media into one state TV media arm. That's not democratic. It has threatened not to hold elections this year unless the U.S. forks over more money. That is not democratic. It has celebrated a Nazi in its ranks, the comedian in cargo pants, a man called Zelensky, doing it in their own ranks. That is not democratic. More facts for you that you won't hear from the mainstream in either party or the mainstream media. The regions of Ukraine that are occupied by Russia right now, in the Donbass, Luhansk, Donetsk. These are Russian-speaking regions that have not even been part of Ukraine since 2014, that other people probably couldn't name those provinces for you. Those are the hard facts. And so to frame this as some kind of battle between good versus evil, don't buy it. And I'd like the likes of the sharpest of the war hawks on Ukraine, Nikki Haley, to have some accountability and answer. Do you want to use U.S. taxpayer money to fund the banning of Christians? That is actually what's happening. They're using the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. They have banned them. The Ukrainian parliament just did this last week, supported by our dollars. And I think you owe it to the American people, Nikki, to at least this one time at least condemn.
Thank you. That's time.
At least to
Mr.
condemn
Ramaswamy,
their
thank
banning
you.
of Christians.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
All right, so some very interesting and spicy exchanges there. And this is really what was being clipped, my friend. So I know it seems like we've got a lot of Vivek clips out here, but these were the things that were being clipped, right? This came over from Benny Johnson and others, and he is really making some waves in terms of his performance. This one came over from Kanakoa. They say, hey, this one is Vivek ending the Republican debate with a message from the Democrat Party saying, end this farce. Joe Biden, stop pretending like he's your nominee.
I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. End this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States.
True.
He's a puppet for the managerial class. So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else.
All right,
just
Mr.
tell us the
Ramaswamy,
truth so we can have an
your
honest
time is
debate.
up.
Yeah, well, they don't want to do that. They're going to do a bait and switch. That's the whole strategy, right? They're going to just keep this thing under the cover until the very, very last minute. And so we had a couple of responses here. I have Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. Some of these were clipped out from Meet the Press and their appearances after the debate. And so this is what Nikki Haley had to say in the aftermath.
He called you Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels. Do you think that was sexist?
I don't even give him the time of day. He has proven that he is just not worthy of being president of the United States. Everybody knows it. Everybody sees it. There's so many things that he said that were just uncalled for tonight. But, you know, I'll let people decide that. We've got real serious issues. We've got to talk about what's happening. We've got wars all around the world. We've got an economy that's in shambles. We've got a border that's open. And we've got a lot of families that are concerned. And those are the things that I wanted to talk about, not the fact that he got my heel size wrong.
He called you Dick
Got
Cheney.
my heel size wrong. And yes, he did have a comment about that. And I think he was also digging on that one with Ron DeSantis as well, saying that Ron DeSantis may have also been wearing some additional lifts. In fact, here is that exchange. Let's take a look at this one. This is what Nikki Haley was reacting to. This was Vivek saying, do you want a leader from a different generation or do you want a Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels? In which case, we got two of them here on the stage tonight talking about Nikki Haley and someone else.
The fact of the matter is the Republican Party is not that much better. You have the likes of Nikki Haley, who stepped down from her time at the UN. Bankrupt or in debt was her family. Then she becomes a military contractor. She joins the board of Boeing and otherwise, and is now a multimillionaire. So I think that that's wrong when Republicans do it or Democrats do it. That's the choice we face. Do you want a leader from a different generation who's going to put this country first? Or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
All right, Mr.
In which case, we've got two of them on stage tonight.
Thank you. Senator Scott.
The fact of the
Hear the crowd. Oh, so, right, the 3-inch heels comment is also a little jab at Ron DeSantis, who had been rumored to be wearing some lifts in his boots or something. And so you can see very spicy exchanges there. Now, there was some interesting exchanges here in the aftermath. So apparently Vivek gets into it with Ronna McDaniels at the end of the debate. So you can see they all wrapped up and Nikki Haley's here, her daughter's out. I don't know if this is TikTok daughter or what, but she comes out and then we'll watch Vivek go down and have a conversation with Ronna.
Looks like he's speaking now to Ronna McDaniel. Can't make her out exactly, but it looks like they may be having the exchange. Look, this was a big debate. Vivek came out here. He attacked the moderators. He attacked the media. He attacked the RNC for setting up this debate the way it was. And for a lot of the debate, he was on the attack. It was Vivek versus the rest of the room.
Yeah.
When we look at the rest of the candidates and who received a lot of that incoming, we start with Nikki Haley. It then goes to Governor Ron DeSantis, who was center stage, of course, the hometown hero, if you will, in his state of Florida. And then Vivek in third place, getting other attacks as well. But he clearly was on off. It looks like.
Okay, so I think their conclusion is much the same that we've seen here. It was all Vivek. I mean, it was most of the clips came from him. I was searching this morning. Did anybody else like really stand out? Not really. Looks like that was the spiciness from Vivek, and he went and delivered some of that to Ronna. Hey, Ronna, there's still time. Cameras are still rolling. There's a podium right there. I'll tell them to turn the mics on. Get your butt up there. Let's hear what you have to say about this, because we're getting our butts kicked out there on the right, and we're tired of it. And again, this Kristen Welker thing is wild. You know, they are absolutely animated against the right, and they put him in charge of the debate. It's like, it was ridiculous. It'd be like putting Tucker Carlson in charge of the DNC debate or something like that. It is ridiculous, although these people are a lot more incompetent and not even in the same category as Tucker or in the same league. All right, that was Nikki Haley. We also had Ron DeSantis, who was out responding to some of this, and he said, you know, this was how I would approach the whole thing. He says the difference is that Trump being indicted is actually helping Trump. And so let's see what Ron says.
I'm curious what you've learned on the campaign trail, right? Campaigns aren't easy. And I want to know what you're telling your voters and your donors, because a year ago, a Wall Street Journal poll had you 14 points above former President Trump. And so it seems as Republican voters have gotten to know you more, your poll numbers have dropped.
I don't think that's it.
So
I don't think that's
learned?
it, because even this Des Moines poll, I have the highest favorability and the highest we consider. I think the issue is, if you look at the information flow, when I got reelected, I was dominating the news. Trump was not getting a lot of news. What changed was the Alvin Bragg indictment, where he started to dominate the news.
So you're saying the indictments are helping him with the GOP voters, without a doubt?
It definitely helped. The Bragg certainly did. And part of it is, I think, think they feel, and I agree with on the Bragg, that it was not a valid case. But it's also just the fact that if you look at the amount of media.
That's so irritating to me. I can't even take it. He says, essentially, by what he just said, the implication is that the Alvin Bragg case is illegitimate and the other cases are legitimate. At least on the Bragg case. Did you hear that? Let me back that up again. At least on the Bragg case, that's helping him because that's illegitimate. So because Alvin Bragg is a prosecutorial hack who's prosecuting Trump, that is rightfully causing the GOP voters to react. They're saying, oh, that's illegitimate, and so we're going to support Trump because of that. But the other cases, he is implying, are legitimate, and that Trump is going to be prosecuted and convicted. And we've already heard him say this, and it's very irritating to me to watch him go down this path. I was wanting to give him the benefit of the doubt throughout this entire campaign and trying to be pretty nice to him, actually. But he is now going down this path where he's saying that Trump is legitimately being prosecuted by Fani Willis and by the deranged thugs at Jack Smith's office, and that at some point, right, he will be convicted. I'm not doubting that. And it's by design, right? It's already been set up. The game's already been rigged. So when that does happen, then his pitch to the RNC, to the Republican Party, that the people who are ultimately going to help, finagle this and decide who's on the ballot, the will of the people be damned, they're going to say that Trump is disqualified because of that conviction. Or maybe the conviction will be enough to meet some sort of a threshold that's established by the Supreme Court or some other state to keep Trump off the ballots, and they'll just say, no, we didn't keep him off, but the law says he's disqualified, and they'll just comply with the law, right, rather than fight for it. And so when Trump is off, when they can remove the head of the snake or whatever, right, this guy comes back in and takes over. And so it's him saying that the other prosecutions are legitimate. Bragg's is not, but the others are. Let's listen.
News. Trump was not getting a lot of news. What changed was the Alvin Bragg indictment, where he started to dominate.
So you're saying the indictments are helping him with the GOP voters, without a doubt?
It definitely helped. The Bragg certainly did. And part of it is I think they feel, and I agree with on the Bragg, that it was not a valid case. But it's also just the fact that if you...
The Bragg was not a valid case, but the others are.
You look at the amount of media he gets versus me, that the information flow in these national polls is what does it. I think the difference in Iowa and New Hampshire is you have a chance to pierce through that. Yeah, he may get 5-to-1 coverage on me, but I can go shake someone's hand. I can run advertising and I can try to even that out. But that you're not going to see, I think, the sea change in that until people really start to make decisions. I do think with Kim Reynolds endorsing me, though, I think that that's a big moment for the Iowa caucus, because I've talked to people in Iowa. Basically, they said, you know what? When Governor Reynolds came out for Governor DeSantis, basically that's telling Iowa caucus goes, you know what? You got to plug in now, and you're going to start seeing that.
All right, I don't think so. So it's about the weaponization of the government is the concern, okay? And he's allowing the government to act like they're legitimate with the Jack Smith and Fani Willis prosecutions, and he's saying that one of the 4 is illegitimate, but the other 3 are legitimate. And it's pretty embarrassing for a Republican who will ultimately be under the same scrutiny at some point in time to be so weak in that understanding of what's happening in this world. But okay, that's Ron. We got it. Thanks, Ron, making himself very clear. So here, Vivek is now sparring with Dana Bash over Hunter Biden. And so after the debate, he's still fired up. He says, you know what? I'm tired of beating up all these Republicans on this stage. It's your turn, CNN.
But what I'm saying is, as a Republican candidate, I can't just call out Democrats and their corruption. I've called out the Hunter Biden corruption from Ukraine and the $5 million bribe. And I will continue to do that. But I will call it out the Republican Party.
There's no evidence to support
as well.
There's no evidence to support
that he was paid a $5 million bribe from Burisma.
No.
Well, if he was, that's corruption.
Fact check.
Okay.
But if he was, but I just want you're making an allegation where there's no evidence.
There's literally
to back that up. Our Daniel Dale literally just talked about this on the air.
Absolutely. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence and testimonial evidence to suggest it. You have U.S. senators saying they've received information. The investigations are proceeding as we speak, but that is corruption in the Democratic Party that I have called out, and I think would deserve to be called out in the Republican Party as well.
There's no evidence.
No, I've not admitted there's absolutely evidence.
Circumstantial evidence, but
which is evidence.
Ask Chuck Grassley for the actual recordings that are actually turned over from Burisma.
We have, and nobody has seen it. But let's
why
just
haven't they released? And I think whether it's one thing I'll just say is bipartisan point. Whether you're Joe Biden or Nikki Haley, release your tax returns. Be completely open about where you've made your money. The American people deserve to know. I did something early in this campaign that, frankly, people in both parties should be doing. I put out 20 years of tax returns. I understand why people don't do it. But that's the kind of honesty we need in both parties. And so that's what
Okay, so circumstantial evidence, did you hear the second part of that? It's evidence. It is actual evidence. Testimonial evidence, when you have witnesses who can testify against other people, that's actual evidence. These people keep mincing the words of what evidence means. And there's no, direct evidence? What are you talking about? Joe Biden has letters to, what's his face? Devin Archer saying, thanks for working with my son, right? And he said, I had no conversations about my son's business. So Joe Biden specifically lied to us. There is direct evidence of Joe Biden's lying. And we also have some serious evidence of checks being sent over to the White House, which would all be circumstantial evidence. It could all lead to implications of criminality. And they'll prosecute people for a lot less than that, right? Trump is being prosecuted for a lot less direct evidence. It's all based on hypotheticals, right? He says certain things and other people heard it and then they interpreted it and Trump was the causation behind the whole thing. They're cobbling together a very weak case or against Trump, but when there's mountains of evidence against their candidate, they just say there's no evidence, right? No evidence. And again, I don't really know what they want other than like a big check that Joe Biden is like walking into the bank with. Like in the memo, it says from Burisma or something, right? He takes it in. So Vivek is just hammering everybody. And I think that these people are going to look very foolish when the drip keeps continuing. And they already, were saying there was no evidence about Hunter Biden. And now we're waking up and all that evidence proven. There's whole books about it. More is going to come. And I think that Vivek did just a wonderful job yesterday shaking up the race. You can see that there was Politico reacting to this, saying the third GOP debate got testy pretty quickly here. Says Nikki's ascension was hard to ignore on Wednesday. She found herself playing the central role, and Vivek went after her. We watched a bunch of those clips. And so a bunch of those clips we've already covered. So here is what the polls look like. This is election betting odds. Was there anything that changed dramatically in the last several hours? Of course, you can see Nikki Haley still looking like she's up on top there as the number 2. Trump far and away, of course, the favorite for the GOP nomination for the next election. Nikki Haley in 2, DeSantis up in 3, and Ramaswamy didn't have a big change. You might think that maybe that night would have caused a couple percentage points up or down in one way or the other, but not really, looking like it just kind of consolidated the number 2 and number 3 position. We'll see if that shakes out over the coming days. But for the presidency, Trump looks like he's still actually increasing his margin against Joe Biden. So he's about 5 points now. And we've been following this week, and more people are starting to notice this, particularly on the left. They're starting to say, people like David Axelrod, maybe it's time for Joe Biden to be shown the door. Newsom hanging there, 10% to be the president of the country, which is pretty wild. 14% to be the Dem nominee. Joe Biden's down, right? His numbers are coming down. Clinton's hanging in there at 1.5%. Again, I think she's a long shot since she's already lost to Trump, presuming Trump is the nominee. And then Kamala Harris as well. So not major shifts in the numbers. Michelle Obama still 3.1% to be the president. Oh gosh, which would be a total disaster. And so, my friends, you can see very spicy debate. We're going to be curious to see if that shakes anything loose for Vivek and what the reaction is. We do know that the rest of the candidates are going to be very unhappy with him. It's going to be a fun election season. We'll continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for checking out robertgovea.com to sign up for our daily newsletter. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.